Hello, friends. Do you have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRNradio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRNradio.
Are you ready to reach for the stars? Tune in to The Lost Wanderer, the #1 monthly podcast on good pods in astronomy. Join our host, Jeff, as he takes you on an interstellar adventure to explore the mysteries of space and the wonders of science. From rocket launches and distant galaxies to the latest discoveries in astronomy, each episode is a thrilling ride through the cosmos. Don't just gaze at the stars. Come explore the universe with us. Follow The Lost Wanderer wherever you get your podcasts, and let's discover the stars together.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
Hi, everyone. This is JJ, the co-founder of Good Pods. If you haven't heard of it yet, Good Pods is like Goodreads or Instagram, but for podcasts. It's new, it's social, it's different, and it's growing really fast. There are more than 2 million podcasts, and we know that it is impossible to figure out what to listen to. On Good Pods, you follow your friends and podcasters to see what they like. That is the #1 way to discover new shows and episodes. You can find Good Pods on the web or download the app. Happy listening.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
How are you doing this evening?
Actually, say that again because you were typing and I forgot I muted you, so it didn't come through.
What? Which part? The whole thing?
Yeah, all I got was "How are you?" So we missed your entire intro. My bad.
Okay. Welcome everyone to another episode of He Said, She Said. I am one of your co-hosts for the evening, Aggie, and with me, as always, is the awesome Rowdy Rick. How are you doing this evening, Rick?
Present. Yes. Hi. How are you? I'm over here pushing buttons and forgetting what I'm doing. Other than that, I'm fine. It's been a hectic week. I spent all weekend pretending I'm a plumber. I finally got everything fixed, and then I wound up having to call out and have somebody drain the tank finally after way too long because did I mention I was a city kid before I moved out here?
Well, what were you plumbing?
My septic.
Oh, that's right. That's right. You're still dealing with that.
Well, no,
Dang.
not anymore. We finally got it all fixed on Monday. $600
Okay.
some odd dollars later.
Actually, that's pretty cheap. A friend of mine just paid $5,000.
Yeah, but that's only because I did all the hard part first and actually had friends come out and help me redo like this leach field and everything else. And then all they really had to do was drain the pump, and luckily I got drained the tank, and luckily I got lucky and we didn't damage the pump at all. So because city kid kept trying to explain to the future or the now ex-wife, we're supposed to be doing this like every 3 to 5 years. No, it's fine because we don't ever put any toilet paper down it. And then, anyway. So yeah, fun times. But yeah, I got it all fixed. But yeah, so that's been fun. And then, of course, the news cycle never stops anymore. Did I mention that some days I actually kind of miss 9 o'clock lids and 1 o'clock tucked in with tapioca guy? Because I kind of do sometimes. Not because of all the but just because I can't ever stop working now.
It has been a very busy week. I'm like 100 days. It's more like 100 hours. Holy crap.
It's been a busy 2 weeks. We're like on day 19 and it's like Christmas day 19, 2025, because every time you turn around, he's just doing something that's either making the liberals go nuts or doing something awesome through executive order. And now I'm just like trying to browbeat the hell out of Congress and Senate and be like, hey, all these executive orders, y'all really need to just start doing like some single item bills and get a lot of this shit codified so it can't be changed so easily later. But yeah, I'm not a big enough account to get their attention yet, but I'm trying. I'm trying.
Hey, squeaky wheel, et cetera. So we should all just jump in and start doing that. Actually, I have been doing it with, believe it or not, I got a call from Senator Cornyn last night. That was exciting. Yeah, he was hosting a telephone town hall and asked if I wanted to join, and clicked yes, and I was hearing the spiel and all that stuff. And of course, this is Cornyn, who happens to be the rhino here in Texas. Of the two senators that we have, he's the one that gets on my nerves the most. But he said, there were some rules, if you wanted to ask a question, press 1, and then, they would cue you and all that stuff and everything. And sure enough, question after question is like, what are you going to do about, Trump becoming such a dictator and this and that and the other thing? And I'm going, I know that these town halls are not usually for everybody. They usually just the constituents or people who happen to be Republicans, registered Republicans, right? And I'm going, wow, they're all from Houston. I can tell. It was pretty funny.
Houston or Austin or both.
Yeah. So, and he kept saying, okay, that's not a thing, and I actually had to give him credit because he was actually shooting down this whole dictator thing for one. And for another, he did express that there were some things, even though there were, executive orders, there were other things that there were, that we were finding out through the Doge that have been a source of complaint, a source of concern. And now that it's coming to light, this is something that we should be investigating. And as soon as he mentioned Elon Musk, as soon as he mentioned it, every other question was about Elon. How does he have this much power? Why? He is not elected, blah, 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 blah. And he actually told the lady, I said, well, we didn't elect anybody in the IRS either.
Yeah.
And I pretty much shut her up after that. But I mean, so I have to give him some credit. I mean, he was still the rhino that we know and love, but, well, not really love. But at least he was actually trying to educate the constituency as to Elon Musk's role and why it doesn't matter if he wasn't elected. What he's doing is actually the job that people wanted him to do. That's why Trump got elected, because of this. So, it was pretty funny. I was like, after about 30 minutes, I said, yeah, okay, I'm done. Click.
So yeah, Cal has a question. He wants to know if you asked him why his barbecue is an abomination against God and man.
I've never actually seen Cornyn's. Well, yeah, okay, I remember seeing it, and yeah, it was an abomination. He didn't go to a good barbecue place. Okay, he's he's hard to explain. He is very difficult to explain. I mean, it's like someone who pretends to be a Texan but really isn't, as opposed to somebody who got here as soon as they could. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we have those folks here too. I think
Yeah.
Langford kind of turned into one, even though I think he's from. Although I have to give him some credit, he's actually voting like an Oklahoman for the last few confirmation hearings he's been involved in. So I have to give him that. So
Wow.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, he actually voted for he actually voted for not Tulsi, the other one, Pam Bondi, when we didn't expect him to vote for her, and he actually voted to get Kennedy out of committee. I was kind of surprised.
I think a lot of them are seeing the writing on the wall. The threat from Michelle Stranahan is very real. And for her, it's not a question of whether or not you're a Democrat or Republican. It's a question of if you're not going to be voting for these picks, you will get primaried. End of discussion. I don't care if you're Republican or Democrat. And she's going to put all of her money towards that. And it's a valid threat. She's like, she has nothing to lose. And a lot of people are actually, at first they were like shaking it off. And she was like, I mean it. I'm a billionaire. I don't care. I got money to burn. She literally has fuck you money. So for her, this is a worthwhile crusade, and people are noticing and people are paying attention.
Yeah, I just like I said, there's just been so much winning, and the left being completely disorganized. I think one of my favorite things today was watching Maxine Waters, who I swear to God I'm having a Mandela effect thing over, because I could have swore she died a couple years ago. And
No, that was her twin,
she started
Sheila
popping.
Jackson Lee.
I could have swore she did too, though. I'm like, wait a minute, I'm confused. But anyway, because I'm like, wait a minute, I thought she died. Now she's in the news again. But yeah, it was funny because I'm sure you probably saw the video of the security guard who's just standing there like, leave me the fuck alone.
I I thought it was hilarious because here's a group of people who are doing nothing but throwing a tantrum in front of cameras, trying to belittle and intimidate an employee. And then they went after his employment. Who do you work for? Who do you work? You don't work for the US, blah, 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 and all that stuff. And I'm like, these are the same people that were okay with 80,000 IRS agents having all of your data.
Oh no,
They were very okay with doxing that data of the US president.
It gets even better because the same people that are screaming and yelling that two Doge critters who are actually on loan from Treasury were going through read-only data, which means technically they were allowed to have access to the data in the first place because they actually work for the Secretary of Treasury. That was a problem. But finding out that China had a backdoor into our Treasury computers, yeah, that wasn't a problem.
And who was the guy that was screaming? I forget his name. I think it starts with a C. He was saying that, he's a representative. I work in Congress. Well, you know what? Get your ass back to the office, file a memo, make an appointment to come see these people. They'll tell you what time to come, and then you walk in. That's the problem. They all could have made appointments because that's how it's done. You actually request an appointment with whatever. You just don't show up. People are busy. People have their own schedules too, just like you do working in Congress. You make an appointment, you request them to come to your office, or you go to their office. The appointment is made and you keep it, or they keep it if they come to your office. That's how it's done. That's how it's always been done. So for them not to do it this way, it just means that they're afraid that, hey, yeah, it would be honored. The request would be honored and they would have nothing to bitch about. They didn't want to go into the Department of Education. They wanted the grandstanding. That's it. Because had they gone into the Department of Education, then what?
Yeah, I love the part where they're like, well, you have to at least let us into the desk. He's like, yeah, no, I don't. But here's my take on this, because for this to have happened the way it happened, this is how this went down. before all the cameras were there, before the crowd was there, somebody found out that Doge was in the DOE. So somebody went over and tried to get in, and dude said no. So then they went back and started stirring everybody up. And like, let's get everybody to go over there and show them that they're blocking congressional access to blah, 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 blah. There's protocol for all this shit, and you basically just went through it. You unless you're going to subpoena them and call them to your house. To go into their house, you have to say, hey, we would like to have this discussion with you. What days and times are you available for us to send somebody over? Not just march over and be like, we're Congress and we're allowed in right now. No. But all of that aside, this is just the Democrats not having any idea what to do. I mean, when the Republicans went through this with Obama, they didn't look great, but they damn sure didn't look this feckless. They just went back. They just went back to the cameras, and I remember Bader saying, "Hey, look, dude, we went in. We told him we wanted to work with him, and he told us election had consequences. So we're just going to see what happens." And that was really the most you heard about it, except for from the Tea Party crew who were pissed. The Congress was just like, "Yeah, we'll figure it out." These people are nuts, and the reason that they're nuts is because they have figured out that their perpetual rage machine, their perpetual engagement machine, all the things all that one machine has been funding all of their angst and all of their spin-ups and even most of their campaigns. Because the part that disturbed me the most about finding out what we found out about USAID is finding out that they have 10,000 employees, all of which have salaries ranging from $300,000 to $500,000 a year. And you know that the 97% of those people were donating right back into Democratic candidates and Democratic causes. So they're taking our tax dollars to build a perpetual motion machine to fund the Democratic caucus. This is why these people are so pissed, because they've realized that whether anybody realized it at first or not, they have found their entire fundraising mechanism, and they've just pulled the plug on it. Now, of course, there's a rogue dude trying to stop them, but we know eventually that's not going to work out anyway, because they're not getting rid of it completely. They're leaving like 290 some odd people in place, which, as far as I'm concerned, is still too many. But since it's been codified by Congress, it is legally required to exist. It is not legally required to exist in the scale that it exists right now. Jeff brought up an interesting point, though, yesterday when Jen and I were on, and I'm wondering if this may not have something to do with why they started with USAID, because Kennedy started USAID, but nobody knows exactly when it became a CIA front. So there's a good chance that the organization that Kennedy started with the best of intentions might have been what got him killed.
There's now another conspiracy theory, and I'm just going to sit back and wait for it to come true. Because let's face it, they've all been coming true.
Well, I'm just wondering, and it's a valid point, and it also because they're working on declassifying all this stuff.
Yeah.
So Trump already knows. So why did he push them there first?
Good question.
I think this is a play to get as much done as they can get done, and then the news is going to come out about USAID, and then all of the country is going to call for the bitch to have a stake put through its heart. That's what I think.
Well, here's hoping. I am really, really tired of getting the whole, don't you want to save, people in Africa? Personally speaking, I think that's their problem.
Yeah.
I am done. How many years have we been spending on our war on poverty and nothing has gotten done? Imagine that on an international level.
Well, that's just it. The money that we're supposedly spending on the war on poverty is mostly being diverted back to USAID and been sent all over the world. But that's yet another point, because we're talking about all these things that we supposedly do to make the world a better place. When is Africa going to come help us? When does that happen? When do all these countries go, oh, America's in trouble, we should airdrop them food, we should do this, we should do that? You know what? Nobody's going to do that. Nobody's going to come save us. And the one thing that this has shown me, because again, think about an iceberg. There's the spot you see on the top, that's USAID. And then there's this whole giant thing that you don't see under the waterline, and that's why the Democrats are pissed. Because if they've been doing this with USAID, imagine what they've been doing with the DOD budget, imagine what they've been doing with the military budget, all of it. And Trump's already said, I'm turning him loose on everything, whether you guys like it or not. And I'm sorry if this continues, I'm going to need to go see a nurse.
Well, on that note,
I figured I'd give you a segue to get into our topic because you're like, yeah, I'm not talking about this now.
No, our topic has nothing to do with nurses, unless Clara Barton or Florence Nightingale is one of your peeps. But tonight we were going to talk about. I wanted to do this like once a month. Guess who's coming to dinner? Historical edition, that kind of thing. Because I think it would be kind of cool. I'm always thinking about, it'd be so cool to have somebody, to sit down, break bread, and just learn about their life experience, or what led them to that point, or whatever, fill in the blank. I've always enjoyed that. I've actually gotten to do that 3 times in my life with people who I admired. None are in my family, thank God. But people that I actually admired or learned from or something. And one of them was the crazy anthropology professor, but never mind. Yeah, I to relive this, back in 2016, Dr. Kathy Detweiler had lost her ever-loving mind over Trump, and I mean, she completely snapped. She was professor emeritus at this point over in North Carolina, I think it was, and she had been my professor at Texas A&M, and I loved her. I cannot stress enough how good a professor she was. She really was an excellent teacher. She really enjoyed her work, and she was very thorough in her methodology. But she snapped, But when I had dinner with her, it was a very enjoyable experience. I had been out of school for about 5 years, and I found out that she was going to be giving a lecture up in what is now University of North Texas. And so I at the time I was living in Dallas, so I borrowed my roommate's car, because I didn't have a car at the time, and drove up to Denton to hear her speech. And she recognized me in the audience. She was like, I see one of my former students here. And it was really cool and everything. And we went out to dinner, and I got to ask her a lot of questions that as a student, I never had the opportunity to do. So for me, looking back, it's kind of an historical type of situation, or a, something that really made an impact in my life in a positive way. And I think historical figures, there are so many. I had to actually make lists of, no, this is not really a historical figure. She's more of an entertainer, or this is more of a musician, or this is more of an artist. I had to so historical figures, my list grew shorter and shorter and shorter, thankfully. But that's our topic for tonight, is the, what historical figures you would have dinner with.
So you're saying so you're saying your list was in the pool because it just kept shrinking.
Yes, it was in the pool. But anyway, so I guess you can go first and pick one and tell us why.
Well, actually, going off of some of the rules you just indicated, that does shorten my list a little bit, because I actually had quite a few, but I still have quite a few. Honestly, believe it or not, one of the people that I would love to sit down and have dinner with, and preferably not the Last Supper kind, would be Christ himself. That's my. Where I'm not doing them in any specific order, because I just kind of. But yeah, that if I could, I would love to sit down and talk to that man for hopefully longer than just one dinner. Just because
I would have to say that he is an historical figure. I mean, he's not just a religious figure; he's an historical figure.
Oh yeah,
So
he's been proven to have historically existed because of how accurate the historical information is in the Bible at that time. So he's a historical figure too. So that's why I laugh at everybody. He's not even real. I'm like, dude, even the Muslims admit that he's a thing. They just don't think he's who he said he was. So you can sit down.
yeah, that'd be such a great dinner. Literally breaking bread. You wouldn't
Yeah.
have to worry about the wine either.
I mean, well, look at it this way. At least I mean, you want to talk about never-ending breadsticks. Man.
Yeah, and you don't have to order wine. It's awesome.
You'd be like, oh, you only have water? I can fix that. Here. Let me fix that for you.
I swear, Calvin and I share a brain. The same thing.
That's terrifying.
It's amazing. We both jumped to the wine thing. Okay.
Well, you know, it's kind of your thing.
Yeah, kind of, sort of.
You do have a Barbabe account. Just saying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but Jesus would give me side eye for that.
And no, it wouldn't necessarily be side eye. He'd be like, you know, Aggie, it says a little wine is good for thy stomach's sake. Not all the other stuff you drink, but the wine's
But
okay.
everything else, exactly. And I would counter with, hey, the monks make their own beer. Okay. I'm just here supporting monks.
Then he'd go into the monastery and flip their. I told you could make wine. What is this?
Well, to be fair, they're in Germany. They
Oh,
prefer the beer. It's actually in Bavaria. Most of the monks that I've met actually make beer, and there were a couple to north of Bavaria that did the wine. So the further north you go, the more wine they make. But in the south, it was mostly beer. It's pretty funny. But yeah, that would be a really good. I mean, I don't think I would shut up if I were at the table with Jesus, asking him question after question after question.
Yeah, he would definitely be like, okay, that's okay, that's enough. Like, don't make me wave my hand and make your mouth disappear.
I think my first question would be like, okay, so tell me about Thomas and how you cured it. I want this. I want the tea on Thomas. My mom always gets mad at me when I bring up doubting Thomas. I don't know why. I'm like, it's a good story. It's a story about faith. But she gets upset about it. I don't understand.
Thomas gets a bad rap, though. I mean, in pretty much every iteration of faith, Thomas gets a bad rap. But I think it's actually a really cool redeeming story because it means that even if you have doubts, as long as you wind up in the right place before the time runs out, you're going to be good. Which I think is part of what makes everybody so uncomfortable because it makes them understand that, you know, if you happen to find your faith at the very end and you still ask for repentance and it's, you know, pretty much the only time you've ever done so seriously, he's still going to take you. And that makes people mad for some reason. I'm like, that doesn't make me mad. That makes me feel good because it reminds me that God is actually a loving, just God and that all things can technically be forgiven. Because the one thing about scripture that I find the most interesting is everybody starts talking about how certain sins are unforgivable. There's really only one, and it's misquoted so often because it's blaspheming the Holy Spirit. And everybody's like, the minute you take the Lord's name in vain, that means you can't go to heaven. No, that's not what that means. That means you've spent your entire life hearing and feeling the call of the Spirit and turned your back to it. That's the only unforgivable sin because once you die, if you haven't done that yet, you can't get there. Now, I'm not one of these people that thinks salvation is permanent either. It's like a garden. You have to tend it. But I also think that there is kind of a baseline where once you've made that confession, you get in. But I think heaven's going to be a lot different than all of us think because I still think we have to answer for everything that we've done. The only difference is when we're standing there and all of our things that we have done have been shown to us, there's either going to be Jesus standing at the right hand of the Father saying, forgiven because he's with me, or going to be saying, yeah, no, I don't know this person. I don't want to be that second one.
Well, I'm Catholic, so we have purgatory. And so far, I think I have racked up about 300 or 400 years in purgatory before I can even move forward. But hey, it's good work. It's honest work. My mom always tells me every time that I say something, I do something bad. If I'm at home, she's like, well, that's another year. And she means that that's another year added to my years in purgatory. Now, for those of you not familiar, purgatory is not really measured in years. It's just a time allotment. There are no years when you're up in heaven or purgatory. But she gets mad at me. She says, that's another year. I'm just like, great. I should start keeping count, but I stopped after 300.
Like, yeah, one of these days you're going to be like, it's going to be like the scene from the first Beetlejuice movie at the end when they're like take a number and he's got like 3,334,999. Yeah, that's going to be you. You're going to get down.
Pretty much it. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Like astronomical. And Danielle, that's actually a very common conception within Christendom. I happen to not. I mean, and I could be wrong, but my personal belief is I don't think any sin is unforgivable other than not ever finding Christ, because it wouldn't make any sense otherwise.
The way I understand it, when you die following a suicide, you are held in judgment, and you have to basically make your case as to why you took that step. So, depending on what the judgment is passed, you can move forward or you can move backward. But I'm not really well versed on that one. That is, I'll be honest, I skipped class that day.
M's got a great point for you. You get a year off for every rock you've sent out. So,
yes, I'm getting back into my rock painting pretty soon. I had to postpone it because, with Thanksgiving and then getting ready for Christmas and then having guests for like 3 weeks in a row, there was no chance for me to paint anything, to do anything. And then I had run out of rocks, and I was still looking for a semi-local place, and I can't find anything closer than Dallas. So I guess I'm just going to keep ordering them from Amazon.
Nice.
That's pretty much where I'm at right now. But I'll be back to it. I've made a list already of people to send to, so contacting them soon enough. I've been working on a very special rock for a friend, and I gotta say, it's coming out so cool. He's gonna squeal. I can't even tell you what it is because he might be listening.
Well,
I don't know.
Rude.
I know. I'll tell you after the show.
No, it's all right. I don't really need to know. I'm just giving you crap. Besides, when you send it out, I'll probably see it anyway because everybody gets all excited. Post like 1 million pictures of them anyway. So.
No, actually, most people don't. I mean, some people do post pictures, but most people will send me the picture in the end and tell me thank you. I did receive it or whatever. And that's always really sweet. But to keep from going crazy, I've been knitting and I've been cross stitching and I've been doing embroidery and I've been writing letters and I've been sending letters out to everybody. That was on my Christmas card.
What is this use of the word going you have there?
Okay, yeah, that's true. Okay, fair enough. So anyway, Is it my turn now? As far as historical figures, it was really hard for me. But the very first one that I thought of is somebody that most people would not think doing so. And I want to say MD kind of came close when he mentioned, he said it was a little cliche, but he would have dinner with Lincoln, Franklin, and Teddy Roosevelt. I would have dinner with Alice Roosevelt.
Well, of course you would.
She was a firebrand. And a woman at that age, at that point in time, did not have the freedoms that Alice Roosevelt enjoyed. Um, it is said that her father once said that he could either run the country or control Alice, but he could not do both. Alice was the sort of person who reveled in, all the inner workings of not just politics, but of culture. And she was always trying to upend everything. She was very much a suffragette. She really believed in women's rights. She believed in the right to speak. She believed in a lot of things that back then women were not really encouraged to do. And one of this might be apocryphal, I'm not sure, but one of her famous sayings was, if you have nothing nice to say, come sit by me. Because she did want to know all of the gossip. She really wanted to know because she understood one thing, and this is something that's universal with women and with men. Men won't actually acknowledge it the way women do, but gossip tells you more about the culture and the trends in society than anything else. And she understood that. And so she used that with her father's politics. She would pay attention to what the gossips were saying. She would ask the maids, what did you hear? And all that stuff. She was very precocious. She was very open, and she was very much difficult to manage by her father. And I have to give Teddy Roosevelt credit because he never tried to control her. He understood that this was something that was part of him, and he couldn't deny her right to be the way she was. And so I would love to sit down with this woman and ask her to spill the tea on everybody, because I know for at least 2.5 hours, that is all she would do. And it would be amazing. It would be so awesome. And it would be a true window into the culture of her time. And I think that's what made her writings so special. What her, the way she moved her society was so amazing. I mean, she not only knew all of the high society people, but she also knew everybody that worked in the White House, down to the person that was, in charge of cleaning the toilets. She knew everything because that was the only way that you knew the workings of the political serving. So she was an incredible woman. And honest to God, I'm just here for the tea with her. I would just ask her, please spill the tea. And I would just sit back and just allow her to just talk. It would be incredible. Very eye-opening, I'm sure. She was an inspiration, and she's still an inspiration to me.
Nice.
But it's just, and I'm not saying that she was perfect. I'm not saying that she didn't have her detractions and she didn't have her own set of scandals or anything like that. But from her, and it took me a long time to learn this lesson, I learned that you should not go through life unnoticed. You should make the attempt to stand out, because you as an individual have not only the right, but the responsibility to be one. And she was one. I got to understand my position as an individual through her, reading about her and the scandals and the stories and the things that she would do. And, the fact that she just did not let society get in her way of wanting something or wanting to say something or wanting to do something. And that was very eye-opening to me because, as y'all know, I tend to be really quiet and unobtrusive in real life and everything, but her example has made me be more forward in social media and has made me find a voice somewhat. And I no longer go through life trying to hide anymore. And it's because of the lessons instilled by her. So she would be a really interesting dinner companion, in my opinion. Not to mention, at least 45 minutes would be involved in talking about clothes. That'd be so cool.
Okay, yeah, I have to give you that one. That one might be cool. At least for the folks of the female persuasion, anyway. Danielle mentioned Marie Curie. That would be a cool one, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for me, I think my next one would have to be Thomas Jefferson, so I could find out why the fuck he wrote that retarded letter to the Baptists.
That would be your first question, wouldn't it?
Dude, what the fuck were you doing, bro? Do you realize what you have put us through with your bullshit for the last 200 years? Because everybody knows that's not really what you meant. And if it is, then you're about to not be invited to dinner anymore. Yeah, that would be my next one, because I would love to pick his brain about what his actual intentions were behind that letter, because there are so many different points of thought with that letter, and that, well, it actually he didn't mean it like this, and he didn't mean it like that. And I happen to be of that thought, because he was, and despite what everybody thinks, he and what everybody's been told, he was a deeply religious person. He just felt that religion should be more private. But at the same time, I am of the mind that I think what he was trying to explain to everybody about the separation of church and state is the exact interpretation I have of it, which is honestly one of the things that made me give Trump side-eye not too long ago. In my opinion, the establishment of the separation of church and state was to get away from exactly what England did, which is basically figure out that the Catholics were making money hand over fist, and and the King of England wanted his own version of that.
Pretty much, yeah.
Because everybody forgets that before the Reformation, you had to buy your way into heaven.
Mm-hmm.
It was how much money you gave to the church, and how often you gave to the church, and how.
Let's not forget the buying of indulgences.
Oh yeah,
those are big.
So I mean, and that's one of the reasons why I keep looking at all this stuff, and everybody's like, and I'll be honest, it's one of the reasons why I've always had a big issue with the Catholic Church. I get it. I'm not throwing stones at anybody, I promise. But that has always been one of the issues when everybody's like, well, why aren't you Catholic? Well, first, I wasn't raised around it. Second, I've done my research, and I don't like the Catholic Church very much, because they did some shady shit. So did the Church of England, though. I mean, they all have. That's the problem, is you have all these things that were basically started with the best of intentions. I mean, you have to remember, most schools back in the day were founded by churches. Most education was related to churches. The little that there was, because they didn't really want people to be too educated. That's one of the reasons why, again, because if you were of higher class and you could afford to buy salvation, you understood the language that the vicar or the priest was using. If not, you didn't, and then they had to translate it to you. So they could tell you exactly what they wanted you to think the Bible meant. That was the whole point of the Reformation, was we're going to put it in your language so that you can read it. And so, but Thomas Jefferson, with that one letter, undid so much shit, because it's like, oh no, now we can't have any reference to any religion at all within the country. And this goes back to the reporter, or I use that term loosely, that was dragged the other day for Trump violating separation of church and state for going to the prayer breakfast. I'm like, bro, where have you been? These things.
Obama's gone, Bush is gone, Biden's gone. Clinton went.
I mean, well, first of all, it surprises me not only that Clinton went, but that he didn't burst into flames. But yeah, even he went.
Yeah, I think Biden skipped one, if I recall correctly. But most of them attend them, regardless. I mean, they show up because they know it's good optics. And it's not just for the right, but also for the left. There is a left religious section in the U.S. and every politician knows this. So it's good optics to show up. So for this guy to say that, I was like, where were you last year?
Well, and for the record, since we've crossed back over into both politics and the church, Everybody remember the crazy lesbian bishop bitch that was going to town on Trump and Vance?
You mean the multimillionaire that lives in a $1.6 million home? Yeah, I know her.
And her church that's been primarily funded by USAID.
Yep. Now
Yeah.
I'm telling you, all of those charities that are church funded are in serious trouble right now. And this is one of the things that I remember my priest, Father Stephen, back home. He had issues with Catholic charities because there was no accountability. There was never, there was no accounting for where the money was going. It was just a vague, it's going to this place for this use. But after that, you never saw the money again. You don't know if that's what it was used for. And he always had issues with that. So I'm so hopeful for this Doge thing. Anyway.
Hey, Steven, just remember, don't offer Socrates anything to drink. He'll freak the fuck out.
Anyway. All right. So is it my turn?
Yes.
Okay. So I guess my next one would be none other than Winston Churchill. He's actually my only political guy on this list. But I adore him. I have read his entire, all of his volumes on World War II. I have read a lot of his books, a lot of his letters. He was the man for the times. And he saw the coming threat from different sides well before anybody else did. But more than that, the man was a fantastic writer. And I mean, there's a reason he won the Nobel Prize for Literature for his tomes. They were not just well written, but the way they were written, they actually took you on a journey. And this is the quality of a well-written book. You start reading and you want to be there. I don't care if it's a mystery, horror, suspense, Western, romance, action. It doesn't matter what the book is. If it's well written, you want to be immersed in that book. You start wondering, hey, I wonder if I can meet these people. That was a quality that Winston Churchill had when he was writing his account of how World War II came about and, the dissolution, everything. So I would love to sit there and ask him not just questions on how it must have been so difficult for him to lead a country that basically, size-wise was rather small against that vastness that was, Germany. At the time, Germany had already incorporated itself with different, Poland, Austria. You had Mussolini in Italy being a threat as well. Spain was just flaking out. I don't even know. France was just, drinking their Pernod avec eau or whatever. But, seeing so many threats and having the foresight to know what to do and yet be hindered by politics at every turn, be hindered by, how do you convince people? How do you win them over? That kind of thing. I would love to just ask him how it was that a man of his caliber became so diplomatic that most people did not see it coming when he was, trying to get his way, so to speak. But, aside that, he was incredibly witty. There are so many instances of him just with his one-liners are just incredible. So that would be somebody that I would love to sit. I don't think I would stop asking questions from this man until he finally just tells me to shut up. He needs to go get some sleep, because that's that's how much I would love to talk to Winston Churchill. And
I mean,
it's,
as long
I
as you
mean,
kept the whiskey flowing, you could probably talk to him all night. It's fine.
and the cigars, yeah, and believe me, I would, because I do love the scent of a good cigar. But just, I mean, there's so much. I don't think he got around to writing everything he wanted to write. I don't think he got around to actually saying and completing the things he wanted to do. So there was just a lot that I think he wanted to do, but it would have taken 2 lifetimes.
So I have to ask this question: does your husband realize he's married to the perfect woman? You let him play video games.
Yeah, he's in the room next to me playing video games. I can hear him cussing out somebody.
you let him play video games. You cook. You know how to make drinks, and you like the smell of a good cigar. Your husband is married to the perfect woman.
It's funny. I asked him. The last time I was at CPAC, Brad and I were, going through all the vendors and everything, and there was this guy that was selling Trump cigars. They had the Trump insignia, the Make America Great Again or whatever. And so I told Brad, I said, you're gonna have to buy some, because Brad does smoke cigars, and he's like, yeah, I think I need to get some. And I said, I think I'll get some for my husband too. So I bought a couple. I brought them. They're still here. My husband doesn't smoke cigars, but he loves them because they have Make America Great Again on the cigar band. So I'm like, wait a minute, I paid good money for those. You should smoke them. I said, well, if you paid good money for that, I think I'm just going to have them, on display. I'm like, oh, great.
Keepsakes.
So anyway, okay, you're up next. Who would you ask for dinner?
Let's see, who would I have to dinner next? Actually, there's going to be kind of an overlap, because I would love to sit down and actually talk to Teddy Roosevelt. So I guess I could be talking to him while you're talking to the kid.
Oh my God. Can you imagine if all the 4 of us were at a round table having dinner?
Dude, no. So many people don't even understand all of Roosevelt's history. The dude was actually one of the first police commissioners of New York City. He's always been fine.
He was a true Renaissance man. He really was. And I can totally see why you would have dinner with Teddy Roosevelt. I can see anybody having dinner with Teddy Roosevelt.
Which this brings up kind of a side thing. Somebody posted all over social media the other day, because I guess Tom Selleck had like his 80th birthday or something, and they snapped a shot of him getting takeout through McDonald's at the drive-thru all by himself. And there's like, oh, look at the sad old lonely man. I'm like, no, he's on his way to a fancy restaurant. Those portions are tiny. I don't blame him at all, because he's about to go have dinner with his family in some fancy place, and I guarantee you he's stopping to get what the hell he wants first.
It's so funny, because a lot of people are like, he's got a family. I'm like, this is how private Tom Selleck is. So many people don't know that he's been married for like 40 years. Actually, this is his second marriage. And he's got a daughter. Most people don't even know that, because he keeps his private life very private.
If you've noticed, though, those are the relationships in Hollywood that usually last, the ones that they keep out of the spotlight. Yes. And then you've got the craziness, like what's going on with Blake Lively and
Ryan Reynolds.
Ryan Reynolds. I don't know why I couldn't think of his name, but yeah, dude, I'm just like,
they seem happy.
Yeah,
they have 4 kids. But there's a lawsuit going on or something. I don't know.
Yeah, so apparently they like hijacked some dude's movie, and then I guess even tried to get Britney Spears in the middle of it, and basically rewrote the script, and then the movie tanked, and now the director's suing them for fucking up the movie, and they're like, it's all your fault anyway. So yeah, I don't know. I thought
it was about sexual harassment, but like I said, I'm not paying attention because I really don't care.
That's the Lively countersuit for sexual harassment, because dude's suing them because they tanked his movie.
Oh my God. Okay, fine. Whatever.
Hey, you're the one who says you like tea. How are you not keeping up with this?
Because I like tea when it's like good. This isn't good tea. This is like fake tea. I don't know. It's hard to describe.
So you're saying it's the Lipton tea? Is what you're saying?
No, it's pine bark that you got from the
Yeah.
from the pack.
That's not tea. That's like witchcraft medicine. It is.
Actually, no, I do make a tea with pine needles, and so I shouldn't put it down because it's actually pretty good. Yes, agreed. Calvin Coolidge, good one, Stephen. Calvin Coolidge would be great. I mean, let's face it. I don't think he would talk though. I mean, he's pretty much the guy. Just let it, just leave the government alone, and just. I don't think he would talk. He would just sit there and say, "I left it alone." Are we done here?
I am not here to answer your questions. I was promised food.
No, but I think Teddy Roosevelt would be a really, really interesting dinner companion, simply because, like you said, his police work, being in the military during the Spanish-American War, and doing all of these things. I mean, the guy, he did a lot of stuff. And I'm surprised that he stooped down to become president, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, I could, yeah. But I mean, we kind of had that happen with Reagan, though, too, and now this latest one. Everybody's like, "Why would you do this to yourself again?" I mean, that's the part I don't get. With everything they put him through the first time, with all the shit that he went through, when he really came in with, I think, what were the best of intentions, for everything that they put him through, for everything they tried to do to him over the last 4 years, with not one but two people trying to kill him. At some point, I would have just taken my fucking ball and went home, but like, you know what? Y'all deserve for this shit to tank. I'm out. I'm somebody that tries to be one of those people that stands up when people need it, but even I have my limits. I'm like, I don't know how he does it. Dude is up working till 1, 2 in the morning, and they showed an image today at like 5 Eastern time in the morning. The Oval Office lights were back on again. I'm like, I rarely sleep, and I can't keep up with this guy. It's crazy, but yeah, no. I mean, I really don't understand why a lot of the people that have run for president, because it's a very thankless job at the end of the day. One side is always going to hate you no matter what. And it's just the way it's always been. So, I mean, but anyway.
Yeah, I think, oh man,
Wait, Raptor's going to go see the dinosaurs. Does it mean you're not coming back?
I'm pretty sure he's coming back.
They're going to keep you. Don't go.
Okay, I think, all right, so, well, is it my turn?
Yeah.
Okay, so for me, this one is really interesting. This one has been somewhat of it's been a thing for me, even though I am absolutely not somebody that would do any of this stuff, but his life was very interesting. And I think for me, one of the people that I would actually love to have dinner with would be Sir Ernest Shackleton. For those of you who are like, huh? He was one of the Antarctic explorers during the golden age of Antarctic exploration. And he died relatively young. As a matter of fact, he died on his way to another Antarctic quest that he was on. But it's really funny because most of the stuff that he set out to do was actually done by I believe his name was Scott. It's his last name. So they were always in competition. Both Shackleton and Scott were always in competition with each other. But Shackleton was in a particular Antarctic undertaking, in a ship called the Endurance. And the Endurance actually ended up getting caught in ice and then it sank. He and his men escaped. They camped on the sea ice until, the ice started breaking apart. And then they launched the lifeboats to reach the first island, which is Elephant Island. And after that, South Georgia, which is, near the tip of the Tierra del Fuego. But anyway, the fact that this man, and he managed to get his crew saved. I mean, this is quite a few hundred miles. I want to say between 700 and 800 miles that they had to traverse on lifeboats. And he managed to actually save all of his people and everything. And one of the things that a lot of people admire about him is his tenacity under dire situations. When they would do a prayer, it was Scott for the science, and so for this. But if I'm ever stuck with no hope of ever getting out, I'm going to pray for Shackleton. That was the prayer that a lot of people did during the time of exploration, where people were going all over the world. But Antarctica at the time was the most, it had a call simply because nobody had been there. So when the Endurance went down, a lot of the stuff, they thought was lost. But in 1999, they managed to retrieve photograph plates that had been on the Endurance, that had been taken by the crew. And they were printed and they were put on display. The photographs were put on display at the Metropolitan, I believe, and various museums. They went on tour. And you're looking at photographs that were taken in the 1920s, I want to say. And these men looked like they were in, I swear to God, it looked like a Gap commercial. I'm serious. Because they were all standing there looking at each other and smiling and everything. And they're wearing khakis and stuff and everything. And it was just, I'm looking at that going, this looks like an ad for the Gap. It's just so weird to see something like that. And it was really cool because Lego actually put out, on the 100th anniversary of the Endurance expedition, they put out a set of the Endurance itself. And yeah, I got my eye on it. And it's really, really cool. It's the entire ship, and it is, the details in Lego are just so great. But one of the things that I really can admire about the man, basically he had no concept of money because he died in serious debt, but he was adamant about exploration. And for him, it was about, you get to one point and you got to see what's at the next one. It wasn't about getting to one point and say, yay, I did it. Let's camp, put the flag. Okay, we can go home. For him, it was always about getting to the next one. And unfortunately, he died very young. He was 47 when he died. He was actually on his way to he was going to traverse sea to sea. So he was going to go from one point in Antarctica and traverse it all the way over to the next sea. But he died on the way from a heart attack. And so they were going to bring his body home, but his wife, Lady Shackleton, said, please bury him in on I believe he's buried on South Georgia Island. And interesting to note, his actual grave is not oriented north south, but it's oriented east west, like the whales, because he had an affinity for whales as well. Yeah, I always thought that was kind of, just something random. I'm like, why is it east to west? Oh, it's because he liked the whales. And just like the whales, they tend to die east to west formation. So that was another thing. But it's really interesting that this man, everything that he set out to do, he never actually achieved. But his achievements were of literally endurance, of fighting the odds and actually overcoming them. And so he became this, for a long time, most people, it's like, oh yeah, Shackleton, whatever. Scott was the bigwig, blah, blah, blah. But eventually that kind of shifted because books were written about Scott and about Shackleton as well. And Scott did not come out looking very cool, but it was that drive and that, I don't know, superhuman ability to overcome the weirdest odds that Shackleton had that made him to be this giant when it came to exploration. So he would be one of the ones that I would love to talk to him about, that particular calamity, because, most people that obviously everyone is now dead, but a lot of the people that survived it, they didn't write books about it. They didn't write journals about it. They just went on, and it happened and they went out with their lives and whatever. The closest that we have to what happened was the journals that Shackleton kept during that horrendous experience. And his right hand as well, he also kept a lot of the journals as well and corroborated a lot of what was going on. So, and it wasn't that, they were copying off of each other. It's just that it just so happened that, Shackleton would write about it, and so would his right-hand guy. He would write about it, and it was corroborative. So he was just a very interesting individual in that I think that only death would have stopped him. And unfortunately, that's exactly what happened.
He's an interesting guy. Before I get into my final one of the list that don't count our honorable mention, I would like to point out before I mention my next one that Aggie and I have not shared our lists, and this is just one of those times when there's just some serendipity involved. And I'll explain in a second, because my final one that I'm using on the shortened version of the list is Sir Edmund Halley.
Get out.
Well, for those of you who don't know, because Amish mentioned this earlier, we've actually done a juxtaposition on the guy that you just talked about. Sir Edmund Halley was his inspiration to become an explorer because he believed wholeheartedly in Edmund Halley's theory of that the Earth was hollow, and he wanted to set out and find it. So, yeah.
That is, all four of us get together again.
But yeah, so Halley not only did he discover a comet, he also had a theory that the Earth was hollow, and there are lots of folks that still believe it to this day. So and Shackelford happened to be one of them. So,
yes,
but
he did.
I think the funniest thing about Shackelford is exactly what you talked about, because he was one of those people that really tried to do all kinds of amazing things and just never really could get him to go the way you wanted him to go. And then the dude Scott was like the Leslie Nielsen of explorers.
Yes.
He would back into shit and became famous, and that's why old dude hated him so much, because he's like, I'm out here busting my ass and you're getting lucky. But yeah, I mean, it really was kind of funny, because right after his passing, he became famous for a few years because everybody started talking up all of his work, and then he kind of went back into obscurity again until somebody mentioned, hey, when it comes to, this kind of stuff, if you're gonna want to be somebody, be this guy, because he never quit. And that's
No,
what
he didn't. He didn't quit. And I think somebody was saying from the Royal Academy, I think, medicine, that were reviewing the records not too long ago. I want to say, well, 20 years ago. But they were reviewing the medical records of his passing, of Shackleton's passing. And they surmised that he actually had a hole in his heart, which is why he had that massive heart attack. It was the second heart attack that killed him. He had another one while he was en route, and he waved it off. So that's a testament to his character. He was like, he's like the tis but a scratch. That's what he reminds me of. So, but yeah, I think he would be an interesting guy. Haley, whatever. He would be great.
Oh, but yeah, no. So I just thought that was interesting. As soon as you said it, I was like, oh, that's kind of funny because that's right. That's right in the same vein that I was going to bring up, and that's just kind of funny.
No, I've always been fascinated with Shackleton, and just that whole age of Antarctic exploration has always fascinated me, because the men that went out there, they went literally into the unknown. And we say that about the space age, and even though we know where the planets are, Sol being the only star in our solar system, blah, blah, blah. We know these things. Whenever anybody leaves the atmosphere and goes into space, that is still an unknown. And so these men were going into an unknown this was another world. This was a very harsh world. This was basically another planet. It just happened to have some oxygen. So the bravery that all of these men had it's just it still amazes me to this day.
Oh. No, I mean, well, the whole thing, because there's kind of becoming this emerging science, because they're noticing that everywhere that they find a planet that's actually in kind of a Goldilocks zone, like they find us, it's actually a binary star system.
Mm-hmm.
So they're curious as to why ours doesn't seem to fit that criteria. And there's an actual emerging theory that there is actually a brown dwarf somewhere in our solar system. We just can't see it. So I don't know. Which would be interesting. But then again, there's also supposedly a planet that's in a very long elliptical orbit that we only see about once every 4,000 or 5,000 years. So you never know. But yeah, I'm not trying to turn this into a juxtaposition. So, although I didn't bring up the guy that was one of the juxtapositions we did, so it's your fault anyway. Just kidding.
Oh, sorry. Guess what's trending right now?
Oh no.
Amish is trending.
Damn it, Orty, what'd you do? I noticed he's not in chat anymore either. What did he do?
I don't know.
He hasn't said a word in like a half an hour. What did he do? I don't have bail money, and I'm not going to be your alibi, bro. I love you, but no. All right. I think you have at least one honorable mention, if I remember how this was working tonight.
I do. I have one. Mm-hmm. Do you?
Yeah.
Okay. Who goes first? You or me?
Technically, it's your turn.
Okay. My honorable mention, I could have saved them for another night, but it was tough. It was between him and Shackleton. So I had to pick Shackleton. So my honorable mention is Nikola Tesla. I have to go with Tesla because, I mean, why not?
Dude. Okay.
No,
what? Now I got to come up with another honorable mention, though.
Are you serious?
Damn it.
Okay. Well, it could be a round table with you and me and Tesla.
I mean, who wouldn't want to pick that guy's brain though? Because I mean, he had all kinds of cool ass theories. I'm like, he actually almost became the first person I wanted to talk about tonight. And I was like, yeah, I gotta give props to JJ. But who wouldn't want to pick that guy's brain? Almost everything that Edison took credit for, he invented first.
Yes, growing up, we were all told that Edison was the greatest inventor of, blah, 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 and all that stuff. And then to find out later on that, oh no, he just stole everything. I was like, well, who did he steal it from? Then I found out about Nikola Tesla. And I started reading on Nikola Tesla and all of the his interesting theories, the breakthroughs that he had. I mean, his forward thinking was, I think, I want to say in the maybe third millennium. I mean, I honestly, I was just like, some of the stuff I was reading, I was like, I don't understand this. I just do not. I cannot make it work in my head. And I was reading layman's terms. I wasn't reading, mathematical or physics terms. And I was just like, I cannot comprehend this. It's kind of like reading Philip K. Dick novels. Because for me, those are the worst books to make into film. It's just impossible. He was so far out there that translating them, even with CGI, you still can't do it. So, and for me, every single time that a Philip K. Dick novel gets translated to film, I'm like, yeah, I'm already prepared to hate it, but let's give it a shot. And sure enough, I hate it. I think I've only liked maybe 2, maybe. So, but anyway, but no, with Tesla, I mean, this, I wouldn't even know where to start to ask him anything.
I mean, the first thing I would want to ask him is what gave him the idea to figure out that you could transmit electricity without wires.
Yeah, like I said, I would just sit there and just say, dude, just start talking. I mean, seriously. One of the things that I think it was one of my kids was watching a movie where he was featured, something about magicians or something. And I think it was Christian Bale and Hugh Jackman were in it. I don't even remember. But Tesla had made a device whereby it could duplicate you. And that was the magician's trick. I forget the name of the damn movie. The Prestige. Thank you, Bit. The Prestige. That's the movie. And I thought that was, and everybody was more involved with the whole magician's thing. And I'm like, you're missing the point. Tesla is the driver, in this film. And my kid is like, what are you talking about? It's like, Tesla's the driver. This is what you should be paying attention to. And so she watched it again from that point of view. And she was like, wow, you're right. It's because of what Tesla did that basically just drove these 2 men to, be like this or whatever. And so the movie was okay. I thought it was kind of bizarre. I think what's his name was in it too. His name escapes me. Michael Caine. He was in it too. And but it was the concept of Tesla making this invention, and it kind of got me into thinking, how many things did this man invent that we don't know about? Because there were a lot of things he invented that he never got around to making the patent for, and he just hid or gave away or, destroyed. So it would be a very interesting conversation, wouldn't it?
So first of all, the remote controls that we take advantage of today, his idea. The premise for them was his idea. But one of the most interesting things that I found about Tesla, and it's one of the reasons why he's always kind of been somebody that I've looked up to, is dude had they call it eidetic now, but it's photographic memory. So basically, while everybody else was making notes and jotting things down, and even he was quoted as to saying one point when he was speaking to people about being an inventor that he found that contemporaries of his day lacked patience completely and didn't have the ability to just be uh, methodical about what they were doing, and that we all make mistakes, and it's better to make the mistakes now than to make them when you're actually in the middle of actually building it, which is something that somebody that can basically, remember everything that you ever see, hear, or read would probably say. But it's just interesting because in some ways he's a little bit like Musk too. This is something else that stood out to me. He had this weird fixation with the numbers 3, 6, and 9 and thought that they were the key to the universe.
And he's not the only person that I've actually heard this about.
Well, yeah, but it all,
because,
well, that's what I was about to go into. So basically, he's alleged to have stated that if you only knew the magnificence of the 3, 6, and 9, then you would have a key to the universe. Although it's uncertain whether the great inventor actually uttered the famous quote, there's no question he was indeed obsessed by those particular numbers. What did they mean to him? Why did Tesla think the 3, 6, and 9 were important? This is something that now lives on even past his death, and there's an entire group of people that have taken that and expounded upon it, which is why you're still hearing people talking about it today. For example, doubling 1 and then 2 and so on creates a pattern that excludes 3, 6, and 9. Scientist Marco Rodin believes that 3, 6, 9 then represents a flux field or a vector from the third to the fourth dimension. Anybody remember the flux capacitor that was such a big deal? And yeah, just saying.
Yeah, it had 3 prongs, remember?
Yeah. So today, Tesla's 369 theory has new life thanks to an unlikely source. Remember that Chinese app everybody's been bitching about? Yeah, that one. So
Red
on
Note?
TikTok,
Or TikTok.
the American version, TikTok. So
Okay.
where users seek to achieve their goals by using a simple method, they write down what they manifest, like a promotion, for example, 3 times in the morning, 6 times in the afternoon, and 9 times in the evening. The belief is that this repetition will manifest what the person desires, in part because of the special nature of the numbers 3, 6, and 9. It may not be exactly what Nikola Tesla envisioned when he obsessed over those three magical numbers, but it's proof that the power of his ideas have not dimmed or diminished at all. And like I said, one of the most interesting things about him is the number of inventions that he's actually credited with, because it's insane. He, like I said, he remember the alternating current. Yeah, that was his too. So yeah, always been somebody that I have been fascinated by. Not when I was younger, because of course in America, Edison got all the credit. Then you start digging through other history, and you're like, wait, this guy did most of that first? That's weird.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I think that he would be sublime as a dinner guest. And I can't, honestly, I can't even imagine how the conversation would go. That is, for me, one of the few people that I cannot even imagine what the conversation would be like. I mean, for all I know, he'll just want to talk about his cat. It's that unknown a quantity. But it'd be kind of cool to actually figure it out.
Well, whatever you do, make sure you invite him and tell him to arrive a little bit earlier, because one of the weirdest quirks this man had, and I kid you not, because of his fixation with things like the number 3, he would walk around the building 3 times before he entered it, regardless of the size of the building.
Well, then I would have to ask him to come at 9:36.
That might freak him out. But yeah, I mean, when you think about
Or
it, though,
6:39.
being obsessed with the numbers, especially the number 3, because that's actually the base for the number 6 and the number 9. It does kind of make sense though, because there's so many different things that we see in our world that have to do with the number 3. Triangle has 3 sides. Pyramids technically have 3 sides. If you are a spiritual person and you believe what we believe, God is actually a triune God, meaning there are 3 separate beings.
Trinity.
And it just goes on and on and on and on. In scientific theory, there is a trifecta: energy, frequency, and vibration, which he believed actually contained the secrets of the universe. So I can kind of see why somebody that, can remember everything would kind of fixate on things and be like, what about this? What about this? What about this? But again, one of the biggest things that I would love to sit down and talk to him about is apparently he had a theory about how to invent time travel. And I really want to talk to him about that.
I see that was one thing that I did know, was that he had a theory. I can't find it. Nobody has it. I mean, it might be on some, papers filed somewhere or whatever, but he did have that theory. He had a theory of gathering energy from just the air. He had a theory of, there were so many that he had. But the thing is, the theories that he put to practice actually came about. So it makes you wonder about the ones that he never got around to putting to practice,
Yeah. Well, that's like he was so close to what we would consider 0 point energy because he was able to just pull the energy out of the air. I mean, think about if that had caught on instead of the very expensive way that we generate electricity and stuff today.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. My mind is blown.
You're welcome. Right towards the end of the show. Blue Aggie's mind.
And on that note, Rick, why don't you tell us where we can find you?
Oh, don't find me. It's a trap. You can follow along with me at RowdyRick73. You can follow along with the network at KLRM Radio and our new news arm at Digital Beacon US. Also, if you would be so inclined, please go find the tweet where Musk is talking about starting a new show called 69 Minutes and remind him that we volunteer as tribute right here on KLRM Radio. Just saying. You can find me tomorrow night pushing buttons for the Front Porch Forensics crew. And then I'm off Sunday because for right now we are still doing actually, I guess I'm off Monday too because I forgot you guys moved your stuff. So I guess you guys are taking the shift on Monday. And that means I get to
Yes.
That means you realize that we're working together on Wednesday again too, right? You're like packing out your week.
Second Tuesday of the month.
Yeah, you're like packing out your week here. Like, damn it, I had to deal with you again already. Damn it, I see how it is. No, that was you. That was you saying that, not me.
Yeah, you'll see me 4 times next week. Woo!
You say it like it's a bad thing. I'm considering having your husband bumped off. He's married to the perfect woman. But no, so then Monday I'm off, I guess, because I've been doing Rails on Mondays, but you guys will be doing your book thing. So Tuesday, you and I will be hanging out for Toxic Masculinity, which is now the second.
That's Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Yeah, second Wednesday.
Second Wednesday of every month. Tuesday, I'll be hanging out with a Manorama panel right here live on KLRM Radio. Thursday, Jen and Rick. Wednesday, we still have full boat as far as I know, so you guys know all of that by now. And then Friday, back around here doing this thing with you. And then next Saturday, hopefully juxtaposition now that I'm not having to pretend, hi, it's me, Mario. Because, yeah, I'm not a plumber. I don't want to be one ever again. I understand why they make lots of money. But yeah, so other than that, I think that's it. And if it's not, that's close enough. You can also find me as an occasional contributor to Twitchy, misfitspolitics.com and theloftusparty.com. And occasionally coming soon to dropping an article here and there on buffoonoftheweek.com. I did actually do a guest stint on Gene's show this last Wednesday. So if you guys want to go check that out, that was really fun. He actually accused me of like upstaging him on his own show. I thought that was funny. But how about you? It was a joke. They're not used to seeing me as fired up as I've been the last couple of weeks. So he was like, hey, Galloway, who the fuck is this guy coming into our own show and upstaging us?
It
was great. Funny. But yeah, so anyway, where can folks find you and more of your absolute magnificence, Aggie? Where can they find you?
You can find me at Aggie Beacon and at Aggie the Barkeep. Those are over on X. You can find me Tuesday nights doing the Cocktail Lounge with the ever suave Brad Slager at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. This Monday, we had to bump up our Spirited Books. So this Monday, you can find me at 8:30 p.m. Eastern doing Spirited Books with Jeff. And like you said, second Wednesday of the month, we're doing Toxic Masculinity. That's also next week, 8 p.m. Eastern. And that's where the guys get together and we host a Babe of the Month, and I bring the drink of the evening. And last but not least, again, on Friday, He Said, She Said at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. So that's where you'll find me everywhere next week. That's the stars aligned.
I have lots of work to do next week.
I do. Anyway, thanks for joining us.
That's going to do it for this. I have not heard from Kat, so I think we're going to talk about maybe going mental to once a month, because I know he's kind of at his wits' end with social media again lately. He keeps trying to come back, and then he's just like, and then I don't see him. So I think we're going to talk about maybe moving that to once a month, so he's not feeling so obligated all the time. Because I haven't heard from him at all today. So not that I'm mad about it or nothing, because I'm honestly kind of worn out too, so I don't really mind. I'm just saying that's why there's not a going mental tonight, because I haven't heard from him, and I've been working like 2 news cycles a day for the last 19 days. Trump stops. All right, let's get ready for Christmas Day for the MAGA crowd number 20 tomorrow and see what drops then. Bye, everybody.